Hello, folks. It's me, Patrick from Outrageous Insight, a man who has just looked death in the face and found it wanting. I just tried to separate my small child from the online computer game Wobbly Life, and basically am now considering my own mortality after screams, shouts, threats, invective. And that makes what I'm about to do seem very tame and mild in comparison. I am here today with Shawn LaRowe, who is the Chief Product and Marketing Officer at Pelican. Shawn, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Patrick. I didn't realize you were living wobbly life stories. I could have shared my war stories as well from my 10-year-old son. So it's real, people. It's real.
You know what it's like when it's like, you don't love me. This is not the behavior of a good egg. How could you do this
Yeah.
to me? And that's just my inner monologue there, Shawn. That's
Yeah.
not what our small child had said to us, but the
Mm-mm.
struggle is real, isn't it?
It's very real. Very real.
Well, in this next 35 minutes, Shawn and I are going to be discussing parenting tips, but also product and baseball, a sport which, if you thought I knew only a little bit about basketball last episode, you're about to see that I know even less about baseball. And the reason I mention it is that I understand, Shawn, that you were a semi-pro baseball player. Just tell us what that was like. Like, which team, and give them a bit of a shout
I,
out.
I would thanks, Patrick. I would say it's a bigger word that sounds way more impressive than what it means. Essentially semi-pro when I played, and I'm a bit of a dinosaur, so I'm not going to reveal my age, but it's not affiliated with any of the major league teams, but they're traveling teams that play in across different regions in the country. And, everybody was like, that's really cool. And I'm like, well, basically, they pay for the hotel and I get a few bucks to eat. And it's probably costing me more than anything, but I love the game and, did that for a couple of summers while I was in college until I realized that I needed to transition out of baseball and get sort of serious about what I might do after baseball and, and baseball in college and figure out what my career might be. But sure love the game. And, it taught me lots of great lessons about teamwork and loss and winning and, all those good things that sport does for people.
Yeah, I am seen as a living saint at Camden Yards, the home of the Baltimore Orioles, because when I was there this time last year, basically they beat the Tampa Bay Rays 22-8, and apparently they are such
Jeez.
a diabolical team that
Yeah.
the fans there were saying, "Please come back, Patrick. You're like our lucky mascot. Like maybe you can turn the season around." But then, like literally, I didn't go to a single other sort of time there, and they seem to have just gone further and further back, Shawn. So, you know, QED, like you do the math. It looks like I
Yeah.
literally was the sort of lucky totem for them, if you will.
The touch of magic, then and that explains the hat, which I love. So it's one of the coolest old baseball logos I think that's still around. So
I think that's so true. I think the design of it is so iconic, isn't it? And
yeah,
I was really excited to chat to you because I know you'd also been at Filson as well. Now at Pelican, you've been at Nike. But for those that don't know, um, just take us back to that sort of time 49 years ago. In fact, the same year I was born, Shawn. So now I'm revealing my age.
yeah.
What is the history of Pelican? Because I know them as a sort of military and sort of military grade, sort of protective, box company. But you're going to be able to tell us just a little bit more about the sort of backstory of the brand, if you would.
Yeah, sure, Patrick. Yeah, the company's fascinating. It was started by a gentleman, Dave Parker, in Torrance, California, 1976. He had an idea. He's an avid scuba diver, and he wanted to create a better dive float to mark, at the surface where he was diving down. So it started with the dive float. And then he loved scuba diving, according to folklore, the story, I might get people out there that's like, that's not quite true. But my understanding is he loved scuba diving for lobsters and he would cut his hands. And so as he came back up, he wanted a floatable, crush-proof, waterproof case that could house his first aid kit, and he could sort of do his bandaging up at the surface. So the little white case behind me is the original Pelican first aid kit. Um, they then went to market at some of these trade shows, and he was adamant that they're selling first aid kits, and that's kind of their, core specialty. And after a couple trade shows, the reps kept telling him, like, people love the case, they don't love the first aid part. Like, we should make cases. And so he pivoted and started selling cases, and it just kind of started with cases, and then because of his passion for scuba diving, got into underwater lighting, and so then he created a lighting business. And fast forward to today, we play in a couple different verticals. We still have the case business. Last year, we launched an integrated travel platform, so we're getting serious about offering protective travel solutions.
Yeah.
We still have a significant lighting business, and then we're into coolers and a couple other smaller growing categories. But really, it all centers around protection and trying to grow the share of protection globally.
Yeah, and I think that new luggage range that you've put out is absolutely chef's kiss, Shawn. I mean, it's so gorgeous. It looks timeless. It's obviously very, very durable as well. And what's sort of interesting for me is that you came from Filson, which is another brand who's like, we build things that are going to last. It's going to cost you a lot more, but it's going
Yeah.
to basically last. And I wonder if you would just share, as a short pen portrait, any sort of reflections you have on what you drew from your time at Filson.
Yeah, I think the time at Filson was a really interesting sort of the brand is always in sort of change and metamorphosis, but it was, 126-year-old company, founded in Seattle, really built on, you know, built to last product because it was sort of the last stop for people going to Alaska and the outpost. So this notion of unfailing goods, that was their promise to these explorers that were going up north. And, and we really actually there's a lot of similarities, Patrick, when we think about Pelican, because our product can't fail. Our product's the enabler of people to go and do their mission. Whether you're a photographer, we have to protect your equipment. You can't show up and it's broken. Whether you're traveling, the worst case, you get to your spot and your luggage is broken or something inside's broken. And then, you mentioned a little bit on the military side, we do a lot of stuff in the commercial and military sectors. And, we're really the enabler of all these experiences and things to happen. And therefore the product has to work and it has to last. And that's, I think for me, just really important. And then the product philosophy that we're always thinking through that DNA of, durability, quality, function, and all of that, like, and not getting caught up in the trap of just, as I joke to the team, making a widget to make widgets. Like anybody can do that, but like, let's really be focused on our brand values and our DNA and our filter set to make sure that we're creating the right product that is timeless and durable uh, to really uphold the brand and the brand values.
You see, because for me, that slightly undersells it. You're clearly like the sort of guide for these people that are going through extreme situations, Shawn. And that also makes you a key protagonist in this story as well. But you seem to be saying, we are just there as an enabler. We're in the background. We're a sort of, my words, not yours, but like a bit part player. Whereas it actually feels like it's a really integral part to these, small M missions actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a humbleness around the solutions that we provide. I mean, I think we're the worldwide leader in what we do, right? And so I think the worst place would for us would be to come off and really be like, oh, we're this or that. Like, in the end of the day, people are smart, businesses are smart, consumers are smart. Like the product has to live up to the brand promise. If it doesn't, like we're just trading on marketing dollars, and we'll never win that game. So, yes, we're a little. I consider us humble but confident because my remit is to ensure that we continue to lead and continue to drive innovation and continue to build the next generation of built to protect solutions to equip for the mission. That's literally how we frame it every day. Whether your mission is going is going on this radical adventure, or your mission's going to the whatever the local five and dime, but you need something to protect your cell phone and your keys. Like it. It's like it's really that sort of protection mindset first and foremost that we drive.
That's so fantastic. And I wonder then, sort of bridging from that, like, what were you like as a kid, Shawn? Like, just give me a bit of a sort of pen portrait about like what you were like at that age, at that younger age.
Yeah, that's a first of a question I've ever had on a podcast, Patrick. I love it. I am the
I'll tell you what,
youngest of
Shawn, you can get
yeah,
I'll tell you what, before you
yeah.
answer, try and guess for me what I was like as a kid. And there's no wrong answers here. I'll even turn my back so you can pretend you don't
I
get
would
white coat syndrome.
I think you're the inquisitor in chief. You're the chief inquisitor officer. That's what I'd paint you as a kid. But uh,
100%. I was so nosy. I was like into everything. I was basically finding it so, I always wanted to know the answer to the question why. So, yeah,
yeah,
you pegged me
totally.
right, Shawn. So
There you go.
back,
Okay.
back to
Uh,
you,
yeah,
esteemed guest.
super quick. Yeah, youngest of four. I have two brothers, one sister. So I think when you grow up as the youngest, it's a blessing and a curse, right? The
Mm,
blessing is they've all made the mistakes before you. So by the time you make your mistake in your parents' eyes, it's like, we knew this was coming, here's your punishment kind of thing. Um, the beautiful, another beautiful side was just having that ability to learn from them and have that sort of mentorship and, do that piece. My role, I love to play sports. I played the traditional American sports, basketball, American football, baseball. I played soccer. I played all those till sixth grade and then did football, basketball, baseball. And then when I got to high school, played baseball. So the sport was always a red thread throughout my sort of continuum. I love to compete. I love being part of teams. I love just the preparation and the practice. And, that part's almost more enjoyable to me than the actual game was because it was a chance, the game was to actually the chance to apply those learnings and see if you could get the result that you wanted. So yeah, it's kind of me.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I, in fact, the last two guests that I've spoken to, one of them is Cecily Schmidt, who was at Adidas and also at
Okay.
Nike, and also Matt Gooch, who's the VP of product at Superfeet. And
Oh yeah.
both of them are big basketball fans. Cecily was a D1 athlete and a hooper. And when her interview comes out next week, or in fact later this week, you'll hear how little I understand about basketball because I was sort of calling it like a match, and she was like, "No, it's a game," and
Yeah.
all of these sorts of things. But she did help me go down an incredible rabbit hole, which I managed to then explore with Matt on his interview, which comes out next week. And that was about two players: Sophie Cunningham, who plays for Indiana,
The
and then
fever. Yeah.
also Jason White Chocolate Williams. And God, I lost about 2 hours watching just YouTube footage of these players, like Sophie, who literally just monsters any player she comes up on
Yep.
the court against. Shawn, amazing. And then Jason, who basically is just all about like the outrageous, like sort of layoffs and this sort of thing. I mean, yeah, it's really got me thinking about. I need to find a basketball team. I need to get into this sport because it's just too cool. It's incredible when you see people playing it at such a high
Yep.
level.
Yep. And I think that's like parallel in any sport, right? And there's all these really cool stories, especially with players like that, who are, one's making a current impact and in the WNBA and, fun to watch her play period and her attitude and her style and her fearless protectionism of her teammates and all of that. It's just fantastic. And yeah, Jason Williams, he's back in my area, but that guy broke a lot of ground for a lot of basketball. He changed heads. He turned a lot of people's paradigm about how to play the game, how to approach the game. And if you watch his interviews now, it's really interesting. More the interviews of the players that played around him in retrospect, and just how much he did for the game, and the kind of sort of relentless competitor and teammate he was. It's awesome. Those stories are great.
And those players that are like the sort of glue that enable other people are so critical. And
Yep.
I know that soccer is something that's very close to your heart. And you were telling me in the pre-chat that you've just had a pretty mind-blowing experience in a lifetime of mind-blowing experiences, Shawn. But um, as much as you're comfortable revealing, why not just give us a little pen portrait as to what you were telling me before?
Yeah, do you wanna start with kind of the moment that or the recent the game, or I can
Yeah,
stitch
why
them
not?
together?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just stitch them together. Like, come on,
so
this is good, Shawn.
so if anybody that listens to Patrick's show, he always asks the provocative question on the kind of one of your career moments that defined your sort of mentality or approach and future thinking. So I had the opportunity, I worked for Nike for a long time, and I had the opportunity to live and work abroad in the European offices in the early 2000s. And I'd been there about a year and was approached about a role to help lead the apparel federation kit project for the 2006 World Cup project. It was going to be driven out of Amsterdam and the European in Hilversum and the European office, but obviously connected back to world headquarters since that's the global epicenter of where all the World Cup activities were being led. And I thought about the job, and then I talked to the hiring manager, and I was like, "Come on, let's just be honest. Like, why would you want the American who knows very little about European soccer and World Cup culture to lead the most visible project in the European office around World Cup that has to really be connected back to headquarters?" And
The thing I love most about doing this show is the chance to talk with leaders about a decision that they may never have spoken about before. Now, this might sound like a podcast party trick, but I promise you it isn't. In fact, it's the same skill that allows you to unlock what your consumers truly want and need. And using that raw data, you can then build more franchise products. The problem is that most brands have currently lost this. Insight teams have been cut, while the number of consumer questions and questions about consumers have only multiplied. And it means that most leaders have no idea where they stand. Closing that gap starts with the Consumer Delight Diagnostic, a structured interview that I run with you that allows me to score your team's insight capabilities and shows you exactly where you stand fast. 90 minutes, fixed fee, $2,500, no pitch. If you're serious about earning your consumer's delight, it starts here. Get in touch at outrageousinsight.com.
and the leader was, "Hey, I'm surrounded by football experts all day long. I need a real product leader who understands product excellence and can have the communication superpower to manage and deal with the corporate side of WHQ. And we think you're the guy." And at the time it was, people might have said, "Oh, it's a risky bet." And obviously it was a great opportunity to get connected with World Cup, football, global football culture around the world, and a real intersection of where sport and culture meet, these big moments every 4 years, and to watch the preparation of the federations, the fans, the countries, and the dynamics that surround every moment and every touch point of World Cup was just really inspiring and inspired me to this day. And so even to the point when Patrick and I were talking when I came on, I had the opportunity. My son's 10, his favorite player is Messi. And I surprised him and took him to the first Argentina match against Algeria, where Messi had his hat trick. And it was just the best sort of 70 hours I had with my son. One, because it was dedicated one-on-one time with my son, but two, he got to see his favorite player and live and enjoy and breathe in the whole experience of going to a World Cup match. Was just unbelievable lifetime experience, no doubt.
Thank you so much, Shawn. And what was it like that moment that you told your son that this was happening? Like, I bet that was quite memorable.
He honestly didn't believe me. And then he was like, "Show me the tickets. And if anybody's gone to a World Cup match, you can buy the tickets, but they don't actually populate in your phone until a couple hours before the match." So I'm not sure he still believed me until we got on the plane to go to Kansas City. And then I think he was still, maybe we're just going to end up watching this at a fan fest or something. And then finally the tickets popped into the app, and, we were off to Arrowhead. Well, Kansas City Stadium. They won't allow you to say the real name, but Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. And Yeah, it was fantastic.
So you've had this incredible experience in 2006. It feels like there was a sort of like a reticence. There was not necessarily self doubt, but there was definitely self reflection. And it sounds like the person who'd come to you with this opportunity persuaded you. And like, why did you choose to? I'm not saying they were wrong at all, Sean, but like, why did you choose to believe them? Like, what made you go from skeptical, uncertain to like, yeah, heck yeah, I'm going to go for this.
Yeah, I think, the leader, fantastic gentleman named Phil Hodgson. I think he's still at Nike, British guy, big Liverpool supporter, lived and
Yeah.
breathed football. I think for him to have the courage to even nominate me to say, hey, this guy could be our guy to do it. Understanding the optics of what that would look like, putting an American based in Europe driving a World Cup project. It's pretty very courageous, I think, on his part, to make a call like that. And obviously other people had influence around it. But I mean, and for people, like, if people are willing to take risks on me in that area, and I believe it's the right opportunity, like, those are the type of partnerships I'd love, because they're not ones based on convenience. They're really based on a real vision or about a future scenario that we believe in, an outcome based result that's going to be the 1 + 1 = 3 and be greater. And if people are willing to take that chance to put me in those situations, I tend to go for those versus the easy out or the easy roll. So
Amazing. And I wonder, did you face any sort of pushback? Like, I mean, you're coordinating like I imagine hundreds of different stakeholders and competing interests and people saying it can't be this, it must be this. And then you've got the football associations and you've got all the different PLMs and everyone. Like, I imagine that matrix and that web of people that you had to, of stakeholders that you had to engage with was pretty significant. Like, did you face pushback and how did you sort of deal with that? Because I think sometimes it's not just about the sort of rose tinted colored story. It's actually sometimes people going, you know what, that was really very, very hard as well.
yeah, no, it's a great question. And I would say, yeah, of course. I think in any job you get pushback in that. I think one of the many superpowers of Nike is that ultimate belief in the power of sport. And if you're really focused on the athletes and these outsized outcomes by working together, and that you tend to work through those things. And for me, my role in that one was really listening, coordinating, executing, holding people accountable. It wasn't me trying to be an expert on, the Croatia Federation or anything like that. Like, we had plenty of people that could do that. So really making sure I was getting the right inputs, and, really understanding the problems that they needed solved in the moment that they needed solving them, to either help solve them or figure out who to go to get the resolution, so we could keep all the trains on the track. Cause it's pretty complex projects like that. And you hit on it. Each federation is nuanced, and you got the FIFA factor, and, there's just a lot of different things that oscillate in between. But the shared commitment of these project teams at Nike when you're on those is unbelievable. The passion, the willingness to execute, the willingness to deliver a high result. So really, really awesome to be part of, just inspiring.
And is there like a sort of shared, I mean, it's certainly something that we see with our clients, that sort of shared willingness to suffer as well. It's like, you're going through a really time compressed, really high stakes sort of thing where nothing can go wrong. Like that shared willingness to suffer, I think, is also really important.
Yeah, I would, yes, for sure. The suffered, and I would say that the shared uh, desire to not accept the status quo or the easy solution. Like, there was always one of the amazing parts about, most of the teams at Nike, was just this insatiable drive to make sure that we're creating new and driving innovation and creating new space, and not just taking the answer as a no. And can you tweak this? I mean, we had one, I, we did a factory visit to one factory to perfect the neckline of one federation jersey. That's at, like, the level of detail of the obsession. It wasn't like, "Okay, we're just gonna take what the factory keeps saying. We're gonna go there and work together to fix a neckline on a jersey." I mean, it's down like the devil is in the details, and that part was always super fun because you realized what was at stake and everything
Mm.
mattered.
Yeah, but it's not just for the players as well, it's also for the fans, isn't it? Because, what you're building for the players in terms of the technical kit then becomes, often the replica kit for the fans and for some
Correct.
families, like, that is a month or a couple of months paycheck where they're like, "We are gonna break our back to get that for our kid." And I think that's something that I often say to clients in the sporting apparel space. It's like, when you're obsessing about the detail, yes, you want to help the athlete perform, but don't forget that there might be a young person who is literally having their parents spending all their money to get this for them. And actually, let's make them feel like heroes when they walk into the shop rather than just accept the status quo for the fan as well. And I don't know if you have any reflections on that, Sean, but it's something I've always felt really, really passionately about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't say I can offer a contemporary perspective except for the match I went to and the out of the 70,000 people there, I'd say 40 to 50,000 had Messi jerseys on, some from the real, true replica, some to the takedown. But, the Adidas does a fantastic job. Nike does a great job. All these companies do a great job of keeping the sort of design, aesthetic, colorway all within check. So it still feels like you're part of one family and they kind of get that synergy halo impact of it. And but yeah, it is important because that one jersey, that one thing is forever etched in the mind and it's some of these fans hold on to. But from the younger generations all the way through to the grandparents that are rocking it at the stadium, it just means so much to have that connectivity to the federation and to their player and all of that. It's super fun to be around.
Yeah, and it's sort of incredible when you see, for example, like the sort of adoration that's come for Norway now with the rowing and with the drumming and all of these sorts of things. I'm curious, you said there was this real will to win, this real determination to not accept the status quo. Like, something that I've noticed is that brands really vary. Some will always want to only win, and some are prepared to celebrate when other brands win as well. And I was thinking particularly about, like, breaking the 2-hour marathon. Not me, obviously, personally, I couldn't get
Yeah.
close to that, Sean. But, like, how, in your experience, have the brands that you've been involved with sort of reacted when others have actually beat them to the punch? Like, is it a celebratory thing? Is it "Oh God, I can't believe we were beaten," or is it actually a bit of both?
I'm super competitive, so it's more a uh, damn it, we didn't get
Yep,
we didn't get there first
yep.
type mentality. But in the end of the day, like on the flip side of that, the respect that I have when other people do it because I know how hard it is and I know
Mm.
the tremendous amount of failures that happen to even get to a potential state where they could achieve that result. And the amount of just people, process, resources involved to even get there is insane. So, in some ways, you do kind of tip your hat, do the chapeau thing, and then you're like, okay, so how do we one up the next one, and create that innovation in that space? But yeah,
Yeah, you sort of saw the sort of begrudging respect when Lewis Hamilton got his first W in Ferrari colours a couple of weeks ago, and, like, you could see all of the other sort of drivers were very, very annoyed that they had lost, but also were like,
yeah,
"Oh, but it's Lewis Hamilton and it's Ferrari," and actually, Sean, we're nearly at the end of our time together, which is sad for me, but I can hear that you are a man in demand, so we're going to be finishing on time. Um, I wonder if you could just sort of give me a sense. What do you think when you look back at your career, when you think about the 2006 World Cup experience? Like, what do you think others in sporting apparel can take, or broader sort of active brands? What do you think that they could take or learn from that story, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, a couple different things. I think I think for me in today's world, like the landscape's changed quite a bit, right? It's I would say if people think it's like hard to start a brand or hard to get into these spaces, it's not. I truly believe the barriers to entry aren't that difficult. The barriers to excellence are extremely difficult. And in that I mean we can all create, the like for like, the thing. We can see, what's hot and jump in and do that. But to be able to create a product that's distinct, that has, values of innovation, problem solving, really innate problem solving, and the ability to package all of that together at a level that resonates is hard. Um, and I think but to me that's always the responsibility of product people and marketing people. Of it starts with great product, great problem solving, great innovative solutions to the problem. Then you layer in color choice, material set, all of those things, and it's really the the package of all of that that brings the distinction, and then up to great marketing, storytelling, and all of that. But I think in today's world, like the tendency to settle or the tendency to do that, it's really easy to get into that mindset, and you'll transact and you'll make some products and you'll make some money in that. But the ability to have that challenger mindset and that curiosity for learning, to really create new space and to create distinction is what I encourage people to keep pushing for.
I love that, and in fact, I was just looking, at, Bracken from, VF Corp had just put something up today, a quote by Miles Davis, and it just made me laugh. I hope you're not of a sensitive disposition, Sean. Does it matter if I say a cuss word? If yes, I will basically
No,
resist.
go for it.
It
Go
just
for
says,
it.
"Anyone can play, the note is only 20%. The attitude of the mother effer is who plays it is 80%." And I think that's what you're saying, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
you can bring all the different elements together, but if you ain't got that, if you haven't got that secret sauce, if you haven't got the people with the deep experience, if you haven't got the supply chain, if you haven't got the brand story, if you haven't got if you haven't got the retail partnerships, you're not going to be able to build a global franchise product. And maybe you've got something that looks a bit like it, but it's going to be a simulation of. It's not going to be a block. It's not going to be a rock star product.
Yep. Exactly.
Sean, two final questions and then we'll finish. So, on this show, I like to talk to people, and I usually am joined by my co-host Christy, who sadly can't be with us today. But hey, Christy, how are you? Hope you're having a lovely time out there in Utah. Awesome part of the world. What? Who would you like to pass the baton to? And I guess what I try and get at with this question is there somebody who you've come across in your career whose story you don't think has had the prominence that it deserves? And that's kind of what I like to try and get at with that. So sort of a bit of a chance to celebrate those people.
I don't know if it's one, uh, as a collective. I think the the people that I I tend to want to surround myself with and elevate are the people, it's like the energy givers in life. Like, especially as you get elevated in leadership and people are like, I really want your job. And I'm like, are you sure? Cause it's a lot of problem solving and all that. Right. But, but I'm always like the people that come in that have high energy, that want to learn, that, park their, ego and ambition at the door and are genuinely just curious about how the business works, how I guess maybe my career, what decisions I made, kind of what you poked at earlier in the show, help shape and inform them. Those are the ones I tend to elevate and really gravitate towards. And it's very varied, even at my current role. And and it's fun though, because they're genuinely curious about life and they're not trying to be the next, conqueror of the world. They're just genuinely curious about life. And to me, it's just the older I get, it's just more important to have that human curiosity about not only experiences, but about people. We're all, you know, I tell everybody there's my role is to set the goalpost, the vision, this is where we're going, what we're doing. There's a lot of ways to get there. And, I'll help you get, my job is to make sure we get there. And if I don't do that, you can you can kind of use, our CEO uses a great analogy. Like if you don't paint that role, it's like Alice in Wonderland, any door will take you there wherever you want to go. But if you don't know where you want to go, it's like, you can go anywhere you want. So yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard sort of negative people described in a few different ways. Mood hoovers is one of them. I don't know if you've come across the mood
I
hoover.
haven't heard. I might
Uh,
steal that one though. I like that. Yeah.
the Negatron is another one, like a bit of a Transformers vibe there. And then you've also got the radiators, who are the good ones, or the refrigerators. So yeah, try and be a
There we go.
radiator, folks.
Radiator. There we
Yeah,
go.
not a refrigerator.
That's right.
Sean, final question then, and this is really just your chance to share and ask with the audience. And yeah, over to you.
Final question. Let's see. So you want me to pose a question to your audience?
Yeah, or something you'd
Um,
like, or something you'd need, or maybe you've got a sort of a message that you'd like to share to the world. I always thought about this a bit like the sort of Jerry Springer final moment, but like less cheesy. Do you remember that bit at the end of his show where
yeah,
he'd be
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but it's not like that. But that's kind of how I thought about it, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think the piece for me is a little bit the themes we hit on today is just don't settle, keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep and regardless of whatever role you're in, you will learn a lot more, about life, about where people are coming from, and then top it off with a dose of empathy. In today's world, it's so easy to jump to a position or a point of view without having any professional empathy about where people are coming from or how certain people have arrived at certain decisions. And I think if you approach it with a little dose of empathy and a touch of understanding and respect and curiosity, you can usually drive an outsized result and build a relationship with someone you might not have anticipated building a relationship with. So
Thank you so much for your time today, Sean. It's funny, I hear the sort of heartbeat, the drumbeat of competition sort of pulsing through your veins. But then the word that's really stuck with me after our conversation has been around humility and around sort of that beginner mindset and that not knowing the answers. And that's actually such a fascinating sort of split and duality. And it's why I sort of feel like AI ain't coming for our jobs anytime soon. Yeah, it's going to change a lot of things, but it's never going to get to that innately human piece where we are one thing and another thing. We are both a fan, but also an APLM or a VP of product. We're both cheering for the home side, but also begrudgingly cheering for the other brand as well. And I've really taken that sort of two parts of the brain from our conversation. So I just wanted to say a huge, huge thank you for your time today, Sean. You've been a true pleasure to chat to.
yeah, awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Yeah, this was fun. Great way to kick off a Monday. Love it.
Of course, it's your start of the day, isn't it? And it's my end of
That's
the
right.
day here. So
Yeah.
you've got like 90 meetings to go to in the next 6 hours, Sean. So thank you all for listening. I will leave it there, and yeah, see you next time on Light the Fuse. Thanks for listening to Light the Fuse. If this conversation got under your skin, please consider signing up for my newsletter. It's called Read the Room, and it's where you'll find out first what I think about the interviews and the themes that we've covered, and also where you'll find out first who's coming up next on the show. You can find out more and sign up at outrageousinsight.com/read the room.